Good morning. I didn't really want to do this video, but I'm going to anyway. I have got the tabs right, so this is my screen, and I'm going to canter through the screen, and then I'm just going to canter through this collection of books. And if we just do this, so this is the screen that we're in now. There you go. So why produce these books and where things are headed? Well, it's obvious that there's such a warmongering atmosphere at the moment, and I find it sickening, I must say, and the general atmosphere has been building for some time. So the last couple of days I've been going on about the military industrial complex, but the important thing is how are these wars funded? Why is there always money for war? And some answers to that, I think, are available in this collection here, which I've linked to. And this is Michael L. Chadwick, Global Governance in the 21st Century. And this collection, which is a massive archive of interviews and so forth, which follows on the work that Carol Quigley did in Tragedy and Hope. And it's, as far as I'm aware, it's sort of an unrivaled encyclopedic body of work, which just explains a lot of what's going on. Now, for some time, this blog, Manifesto of the Trilateral World Fascist Party, has been available on the Grub Street in Exile. This was May the 16th, 2024, this went up. And this possible scenario for the future, which was written sometime before 2007 and is, well, nothing short of prophetic, really. It was explaining what was happening then, it was explaining stuff, since. And so many of the themes that are in the collection of books which I've put together are actually drilled down to in considerable detail. Yeah, so there that is. Now, I've been wanting to, I have started doing a series of readings from these books. Now, the EPUBs are available fairly inexpensively. I probably will end up just making them all free on the Conquest of Doughforge website that used to be the Conquest of Dough website, but I changed its name and put a bookshop in there. And so that's the first book on the bookshelf, The Conquest of Dough. Now, so in order of, on Draft to Digital, this was produced in the Going Direct Paradigm Spring series of 2024. This was book one. Book two was my grandfather's biography, The Miner's Tale, by Lewis Foster Lewis. And the third one was this collection of poems, which actually was first offered for sale in 2016, which is when I started writing this novel. And then also my grandfather's biography is written in about 1985. So from 1985 to 2026, so that's 41 years, isn't it? And so Grampy's miner's tale. It says here, I was born on the 28th of June 1902 in the village of Tonnerevel in the county of Glamorgan, South Wales, second of 6 children of William John and Catherine Jane Lewis, née Jones. My Christian name Foster came from my mother's side of the family. It really is a good read. Chapter 11, Shining the Itching Plate and Check Weighing. Softy, softy, catchy monkey. Shining the hitching plate was a mining expression which meant tipping, or more precisely trumping, and was a payment made to an underground haulier to show favour, or equally as important, not to show disfavour. The coal facepiece work was dependent upon the goodwill of the haulier to give him his fair share of empty trams to fill with coal, and also a fair share of timber for roof supports upon which his safety depended. There would be no difficulties in this respect if there was a smooth and steady flow of traffic and supply of roof support timbers. Traffic underground did not flow with the precision of a factory assembly line. Shortage of trams or rolling stock, roof falls and derailments were only some of the factors which held up the smooth flow of traffic, whilst management economies in the supply of timber was the cause of scarcity of roof supports. Journeys, that is the term used to describe the train of trams, would not leave the pit bottom at regular intervals. The timing would depend upon how long it took to assemble enough trams for a train. When assembled, the train of empty trams would leave the pit bottom for the double parting, which was the junction and distributing point from which the haulier serviced the coalface worker with empty trams. So that's the miner's tale. The idea of having your own set of scales to check what you're being told is the proper amount is established as part of my grandfather's biography. So the conquest of Dough, which actually is really still unfinished. I mean, I've got a much more complete version of this, and I just have not, and I still don't have the energy or the inclination to actually write it. So what I did is I took what I had written. I spent 2 years, and then I just produced using AI 2 years ago. I just thought, right, okay, I'm going to put what I've done into the AI and produce, the framework of the book. So, and that's the conquest of Dough. And the research that was going into this book, and the feelings and frustrations, whatever, that went into produce of these poems, kind of evolved from there. So Conquest of Dough, The Miner's Tale, and Philosophy. So let's just dip in here. A sketch from the UN General Assembly. In the words of Daniel Patrick Moynihan, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. The little boy in the old fairy tale would surely ask, where are the emperor's clothes? It seems that truth is indeed a rare commodity in today's political theatre. I had the distinct and dubious pleasure of attending the UN Security Council session where the esteemed John Kerry and the fat Blair Whig Bojo Bunto Thompson de Spivel both put on a display of rhetoric, sophistry and mendacity that left both exuding a smug and cringing inanition of self-awareness. The Latin scholar and the congressman, Unger, graced the stage, and I must say it was a performance that even Lucian, the great Roman satirist, would have blushed at. See, I wrote that as a blog and just included it as part of the narrative chapter here. Anyway, so it's kind of abstract. At the end of it, there's the poems Usury, Hellsfield Man's Oppressor, Bourgeois Resolution, and Globalization Unentangled, all of which are sort of available on my various bloggings and what have you. This bit, look, so this is Globalization Unentangled. So there's a bit here. It's a Dadaist cut-up poem. Few are the partisans of departed tyranny, of globalism or nationalism, which be the tyrant. Yet passions are deceiving someone. So near 50 years behindhand of Pharaoh fell. On this day of March, in my opinion, is the end of the United States of America as the land of the free and the home of the brave. Elisa, with a Ligerian inscrutability, hears the confession of the malcontents, a mirror held up before cosmetic application, globalization and internationalism confused. Despotism's nature is to abhor any say save that of its own momentary pleasure. It annihilates all intermediate situations between boundless strength on its own part and total debility on the part of the people. Our education can be our government, our reason can be our judge of the rivals, globalism, authority, coercion and competition, or nationalism, internationalism, cooperation. Are we to have free will and democracy? Will we have determined authority, a struggle of ideals, an ancient quarrel? Parmenides and Heraclitus navigators both. If centuries be epochs, with peculiar discretion, 19th, 20th, 21st, the behindhand review, 19th, innate goodness of man, nationalism, 20th, fallen man, Calvinist rule, globalism. For the 21st, partisans for patronage, Putin and the bear, nationalism, Trump and the eagle, internationalism, Corbyn of the uncommon people, internationalism, Farage of the common people, nationalism. Well may you ask, globalism and Atlanticism, within the Elysian bosom subcling globalism on the right and internationalism on the left, restricted by two tits, a binary memory conundrum, for pigs have many teats, on which teat will elite subtle, only formula for the masses. So it goes on. Now, basically, that cut-up poem had a lot of the reading that I'd done after I read Tragedy and Hope. And as I say, Michael Chadwick's encyclopedia kind of fills in the rest of the blanks. And then there's copious amounts of other books, even recommended by Michael Chadwick, in that. And there's just a wealth of information out there which is actually saying, oh, hold on, hang on a minute, this isn't right, this isn't going to end well, this is all wrong. And it's absolutely ignored, marginalized, and doesn't seem to register or have registered if you look at any media, even the so-called alternative media. The distraction from what appears to be actually the simple fucking truth, which is that international finance, banks governed by the Bank of International Settlements, have basically put the infrastructure in place whereby a set of rules and incentives have led to where we are. And the things that affect us all badly are not bugs, they're actually features. They're an inevitable outcome of this process that we've been embarked on for the past 300 years. So yeah, and so within all these books, all these different ways of looking at just that conclusion. Or it's not looking at that conclusion, it's the conclusion that emerges wherever you start from. All roads lead to Rome, that old saying. Well, all roads lead to well, the Babylonian accounting system and the Venetian banking system that went from Venice to Amsterdam to London, you know, Wall Street, etc., which is all right now administered from Basel in Switzerland, Switzerland, the home of Calvinism, etc. And Calvin said the poor must remain poor so that they remain obedient. And that's basically an end of it. I mean, there just isn't. There really isn't any argument against. Well, that's actually where we are now. And yeah, so anyway, so then after the conquest of Doughforge came the Clockwork Forest, and this was basically a series of dialogues which came out of a whole bunch of blog posts about those different aspects of looking at things. So chapter 20, a Chestertonian reflection on the first 19 chapters. The bowling alley was long behind them, and the group had returned to their usual haunt, a dimly lit office cluttered with books, papers, and the faint aroma of pipe smoke. Robin, Christine, Charlie, and Mike sat around the table, each nursing a drink, as they reflected on the journey so far. Robin, ever the storyteller, leaned back in his chair and began with a flourish. "Let us return to the beginning," he said, his voice carrying the weight of a Chestertonian cadence. "For what is a journey without reflection, and what are chapters without a unifying thread? The first 19 chapters were not mere musings, my friends. They were stepping stones across the river of modernity, each one bringing us closer to the heart of the matter, the tension between human consciousness, God consciousness, and the systems that seek to enslave us." Christine smiled, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "So, Robin, if we're to summarize, what have we learnt so far? What themes have emerged from our debates, our tangents, and our occasional games of 10-pin bowling?" Robin stroked his chin thoughtfully. "We began with the money changers in the temple, a metaphor for the commodification of the sacred. From there we explored the mirror world that distorted reality, crafted by technocrats and oligarchs. We've wrestled with questions of free will, God consciousness, and the human family, and through it all, one truth has stood out. The systems of this world, be they economic, technological, or political, are designed not to liberate, but to control." Right, so that's that one. And then the next one that got published was 10 Steps to Affordable Housing. So all the time, the last 6 years, I've got a company called Homatics, and it's an affordable house building company. And so I'm a property developer, and basically we all have to go out on the playing field that's presented to us. And I'm in a position I can compare what it was like when I did that in the 1990s. Then I retired, and then what it's been like in the 2020s, because I came out of retirement in 2019 and relaunched my old consultancy firm and a new property company called Homatics in 2020. So where are we? So here it is, 10 Steps to Affordable Housing, the new circuit of credit. And what this is basically saying is that debt is saturated, and effectively you know, what's needed is a new circuit of credit. I saw that Steve Reed, the housing minister, is awaiting releasing a new government property company to build affordable home with access to lower cost finance, which frankly is the right thing to do. Even though it's the right idea, they can still cock it up and probably will. But that's yeah. So what else have I got open here? So this is a speech from the deputy or the vice president of the European Central Bank. Hardly surprisingly, he said the answer to what's going wrong in Europe is more Europe, more centralization and all the rest of it. It's just an example how these people can't see their own hand in creating what are the problems for the rest of us. And one can only assume that they don't see them as problems for themselves, because obviously the poor must remain poor to remain a median. This is basically the columns from Fabio Vigi, who's a professor at Cardiff University. Central bankers along COVID and the incurable condition. That's talking about expanding central bank balance sheets, which was published in October 2021. And then his most recent one, Zone of Interest, the Noise of Permanent Warfare. And the idea that you've got to destroy demand, destroy things to build them back up again. The military-industrial complex, the petrodollar, arms and weapons dollar coalition, etc. So these are all themes that are developed kind of through the links in the blog there. They're all in there. Then there's this chap called Simon Dixon, who's been on a similar journey over a similar period of time. There are 2 videos from him there. Anyway, let's just get back to where are we? These in the order there. So 10 steps affordable housing, and so these 2024, 2025. Then we get to the Circle of Blame anthology, which I did a reading of, which will be in this playlist, Anthology of Blame. And this is a collection of what I call them blog post substacks from last summer. So last summer I was grappling with the idea of, right, okay, I can see that there isn't a institutional pool of finance that is making credit allocation decisions based on the quality of what's being put in front of them. And so actually trying to articulate that. I mean, when I retire again, I'll be able to, warts and all, I've almost finished another book about this company that I've been building over the last 6 years. So anyway, the Circle of Blame anthology is a more substantial book, and I'm pleased with this one. I'm not pleased with all of them. The Conquest of Dough is unfinished. Clockwork Forest, I'm quite pleased with that one. 10 Steps to Affordable Housing, so I'm quite pleased with that one. But so actually these ones I'm actually quite pleased with. So that's Circle of Blame, Anthology of Blame, and then we come to this one here, which is the Strawberry Conspiracy. Now, this is a novel that I started writing in 2000 and God, I might even have started writing it in 2009. I had some notes on the general idea, and this is about artificial scarcity. And again, it's a short novel, which is just getting that idea of if you want to get a narrative of scarcity going, you've got to tell some absolutely whopping great big lies to sort of make them stick. And that's what this is about. And it's got some common characters with this one. So that's the Strawberry Conspiracy, the Plantsman, which is the prequel to the Conquest of Dough. So that's that one. So there's Conquest of Dough, the Plantsman, the Conquest of Dough, then the Clockwork Forest, the Conquest of AI. And I'm a bit of a techie, a bit of a computer nerd, and so I do actually like technology. I don't like what it's used for a lot of the time, but anyway, so that's that one. Then there's the short one here, which is The Rise and Fall of All Circles of Blame. So this is really just like a pamphlet. Yeah, it's a very short pamphlet, which yeah, and then it's also got the 3 epic poems, Globalization Unentangled, usually Hell's Fuel as well at the end of it as well, and Globalization Unentangled, which basically everything's in those poems anyway. So there we are, Rise and Fall of All Circles of Blame. Right, Escaping the Matrix isn't available. It's downloadable as a EPUB, and there's a flip book of it which people can read online. Then next up comes Naming Usury's Tyrannies, which is this one here, which is a collection of poems, all basically getting at the fact that the Bank of International Settlements does not have clean hands in all of this. They set the rules, and it's their rule set that ultimately leads to the features of the system which we all see as bugs. So it's a bunch of AI generated poems, some poems that the ones that I've composed, written myself, and yeah, so that's that one. And then the New Commonwealth of Oceania. So this is a very short retelling of the principles of governance, which James Harrington wrote in 1656. So of course nothing new under the sun. Harrington understood something the modern political scientists have largely forgotten, that political power follows economic power as surely as water flows downhill. You cannot have genuine democracy when wealth is concentrated in few hands any more than you can have a flowing river when all the water is dammed up at the source. The forms of democracy, elections, parliaments, constitutions, become mere theatre when the real decisions are made by those who control the economic resources. This insight was so dangerous that it had to be suppressed, not through censorship, which would have drawn attention to it, but through the more subtle method of academic neglect. Harrington's work was allowed to survive in libraries and scholarly footnotes while being carefully excluded from practical political education. Students learn about Locke and Hobbes, about Madison and Jefferson, but Harrington, who understood the economic foundations of political power, remains safely buried in specialist studies. Yeah. So that sort of draws back into that and makes that case. And there's the biography of a poetic legislator, which is a collection of poems and writing to do, which is sort of autobiographical. Don't know if that's the right word for it, because it's basically describing the journey, or my journey, since about 2003 or 4, really. So, and it's a source book, bibliography and whatnot, just of how I get to where I get to. And there's some reprints of poems that are in here. So that's that one. Then we come to all of the stuff. The library is called the Doughforge Library, and this book, The Conquest of Doughforge, is about developing a writing assistant called the Self-Pubs Kit, because I wrote a paper called The Fair Index. This is a booklet explaining that, the Unfair Index, talking about that. Where are we? Let's have a look. It's the quickest place. Right, so this is actually an animation of the Unfair Index. So actually developing these graphs, animating them and whatnot, and writing this paper and getting it to reproduce without Mojibake, working with AI was just bloody hard. There you go. So that's on GitHub, and that basically shows how macroprudential policies actually lead to what's called the housing crisis, but it's actually a system state that's necessary to perpetuate exponential debt, basically. So the Unfair Index is about writing that paper, and the Conquest of Doughforge is about using AI coding, and AI as a drafting thing, and it really shows the limitations of the technology. Humans are great. You really cannot beat human input into anything, and AI, search engines, digital, it doesn't replace human judgment, human feeling, human nuance, all the rest of it. It's got none of that. It's absolutely useless. AI is shit. Artificial intelligence, it's not intelligent. It's digital. It's horrible. Yeah, and it is rubbish. It is absolutely rubbish. and it's in terms of a circle of blame, it's the ultimate abdication of responsibility, and it's so obvious now how going direct, the Bank of International Settlements, the whole of the way things are run, it's failed. It's failed just about everybody. There's a very small number of people who still benefit from it, and the people, more and more people are realizing, well, actually, that is not the way to go. So where do we go? It's a little bit like penning sheep. Before they close the gate, just people are going to split, because basically at the end of 15 years of reading, more than I wish I'd read about all this stuff, reading Tragedy and Hope and Chadwick alone would be enough. But obviously you go off, read the footnotes, read a bunch of other stuff, read the stuff that claims it's not true, and then making up one's own mind. So this is quite a good book. I've got to say, I'm quite pleased with this. Of all of them, this is the one, and because it's quite big and bulky and all the rest of it. Let's have a look. Let's just get this one up. Right, where are we? Conquest of Doughforge. Here it is. Right, so see, on Drafted Digital. Here it is. Here you see. So the EPUB is priced at $4.99. So if someone downloads that EPUB, I get $2.97. If someone gets it off the bookshop, where are we? Doughforge. Let's just find that. Doughforge bookshop. So here it is. Here, $4.99 for the EPUB there, and basically there's not a cut going to Drafted Digital on that bit. But if you want the print issue, so this is the print book, right? At $49.99, the projected royalties to me would be £11.36. So even if it was $40.99, I'd still only get $2, which is the same as selling an EPUB. So I left that one at $49.99, and if someone buys that for $49.99 or whatever, I could, like I say, the others they don't all build to this, but this and then the CityCam trilogy really they build to. So anyway, that's the Conquest of Doughforge now, which is about writing the unfair index or publishing the fair index, which is this here. Okay, so that's that. Right now, the Doughforge identity and the identity of Doughforge are two sort of readers into this. Now, these are both available as free EPUBs on the bookshop here, on the second page here. There we are, Doughforge identity and the identity of Doughforge. Now, one's shorter, one is slightly longer, and it's a suggested way of approaching this book, which it's hard to explain what this is. David Malone wrote the forward, which I did do a reading of, and is available in the playlist. Okay, and all of us think. Many of us think more than we talk, and ideas, expressions of, so if one can paint, or if one writes poetry, or expresses through music different ways, it's Roger Lewis. Hello. Yeah, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Abdolly.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, it's Roger Lewis. Are you with John?
Yeah. I've been seeing your number in my phone, so I want to confirm who is that.
Yes. So I saw the group chat, and it's obviously from the Gambia, and so I assume that you're at the hospital with John.
Yeah, maybe you haven't been Gambia or never.
No. I've known John for many years, but I've not been to the Gambia. But I last time I got a call from the hospital, someone did a group call, and I'm assuming that that's what this was.
Yeah, could be. I'm a taxi driver anyway.
Okay, all right then. Okay, all right. Well, look, I sent John a message anyway, and I'll speak to his daughters.
All right.
Yeah.
That.
Okay. Thanks. Right, bye. Are we still going? Let's have a look. One, two, 1, 2. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, okay. I'm going to keep going. I'll cut the interruption out. It's like a call from. I had to take that call. Right, so that's the identity of Doughforge and the Doughforge identity, conquest of Doughforge. And then there are two experimental novels which are about the AI type themes in the conquest of Doughforge. And so these are novels produced using the tool that this book is about, writing the tool that wrote the paper, which sounds a bit convoluted and all the rest of it. But the story, the case of the elusive Wanker Pimpernel, because part of the tool was the Wanker protocol, Wanker, and then The Wandering Anchor, which is, I think, the better story than The Elusive Wanker Pimpernel. And at the beginning of both of these, there's a Tristram Shandy sort of digression, sort of making the point, you know, what's it all about? Are we nearly there yet? So many different things that you wouldn't think are related but are related. What, you know, what is this money, this water that we all swim in? So what Soddy called the something, something, the nothing you get for something before you can buy anything. That's how Frederick Soddy defined money. So yeah, so again, so this collection of stuff, like I said, I'm very pleased with, and let's just have a look here. So just explained, when you printing Dead Tree stuff costs money, obviously. I just like the text. Flicking a book, reading a book, it's just so much more pleasurable than reading on a screen. And then the final 3 books then are these ones. So this is City Camp. So you think you know about money. Think Again, Volume 1, Doing Direct, E4's Volume 2, and Doing Direct Volume 3. Now, when this one came, I was really quite disappointed with this one. Part of it's just fatigue. I'm so fed up using, you know, Claude Code, Claude AI, all of that stuff. I am so utterly fed up with it. It really is rubbish. But it's a tool. It's a useful tool. But a shit writer and a bad researcher and all the rest of it, it's the most evolved demonstration of garbage in, garbage out. But you can't guarantee, even with quality inputs, that you get reasonable outputs because of the hallucinations, the showboating, the performative aspects of it, which I think tells you a lot about the people who've programmed it. They're a bunch of fucking know-it-alls, and these people have no business having such a big say in our in the governance of the societies and communities we live in. They really are arrogant people, and you know, it does make me angry, I must say. So I guess, you know, at least feeling anger is feeling alive. You know, so the motivation for doing all of these things, certainly not to make money, certainly none of those things. It's the pursuit of knowing for knowing's sake, not you know, the pursuit for some sort of insight, some sort of explanation, some sort of why. You know, why on earth would anyone be convinced or happy with the current arrangements? Just it makes no sense whatsoever. It really is just the bout of insanity. You know, the rot. Yeah, it beggars belief. So that's really why I've been trying to sort of figure that out. And I've come to the conclusion they just really don't know any better. I think that's the problem. They're convinced of their own bullshit. That's the thing. That is the conclusion. yeah, and so all the other stuff, I mean, people say it much better than me and all the rest of it. People say, yeah, that's really where I'm at. I'm not perplexed. I think I have understood it, but I am amazed that the explanation is actually really rather simple, and it's just that deluded people believe their own bullshit. And to be deluded, you don't have to be a criminal mastermind. You don't have to be some sort of evil genius or anything like that to be deluded. You know, it's just another form of desperation, really. And none of it makes any sense. None of it. And the core explanation feeding into it is that the system is flawed at its heart, and the heart of the system is this economic power business. And back to Harrington, and he figured it out in 1656, and lots of people that followed him have as well. So anyway, there we are. That's 51 minutes of whatever that was.